Hi everybody. I wanted to post my first video. It's not real great until I figure out exactly the best way to upload some of this stuff, but this is a very, very basic slideshow that I made, and this kind of highlights the story of my abuse. Hang on one second, and I will figure out how to make this thing move. Okay. In the beginning, everything was beautiful. It was amazing. It was truly the most beautiful utopian love I had ever experienced in my life. I was at an age that I had finally gained some wisdom, and I had learned some pretty hard learned lessons, and I was coming into this relationship just completely ready to go, full on trust, 100% honesty. I was ready to be the best person that I could be for somebody else, and I was really ready to enjoy one of the best, most adult like relationships that I had ever gone into. I was really, really excited for this. And so I put everything that I had, my heart and my soul, into being with this person. Like I said, it was absolute bliss. Every second that we had was spent together. We lived at the beach, and we have children, so we spent a lot of time on the water, going places, doing fun stuff. We both play music, so we had a lot in common there. We shared so many beautiful nights. The kind of nights that last all night long until the sun comes up, and then we would run over to the beach and watch the sunrise. It was beautiful. It was just a beautiful friendship that was blossoming into the most lovely thing I had ever experienced. As time went on, a couple months passed, it never got boring. It was always fun. We were always traveling, doing really great things. We had so much fun together. Um, it didn't matter where we were going, or where we were, what our destination was supposed to be. The journey there was what always was the most fun out of the entire trip. So we really, really fused as one. It was a really amazing, absolutely utopian, blissful love story. And as the months went by, probably 2 or 3 months, I started to notice little lies here and there. I did not want to face them. They were not a big deal, so I brushed them under the rug. I thought that was the best thing to do in my effort to stay committed to an adult relationship and really kind of give and take and pick and choose my battles. I kind of chose to just ignore them. I thought that's maybe part of coming out of old relationships and starting new ones and establishing trust. So I just kind of let them go. But they became more voluminous and more voluminous. And then I began to notice that the lies were more frequent. He would tell lies and then forget the lie that he told and then tell another lie to cover up the first lie. But I'm a very smart girl, and I'm actually very psychologically intuitive. I'm very in tune with people and personalities and the realities that are going on around me. I've always been that way. So I was picking up on things that he was trying to pull over my eyes, and that's when I started to notice, okay, this sucks. I still tried to ignore it, and I did for the most part, but I began to slowly call him out. And as you know, with any narcissist, when you call them out, or you put them in a position where it is known that they are wrong, they will go into an absolute rage. And that's exactly what happened. He would go into a complete, horrific, shouting, yelling, just god awful rage. So I would, again, kind of pick and choose my battles as time went on. And at some point in time, his ex-wife, who is a severe psychopath herself, very, very disordered in many ways, probably BPD. I'm sure that she's got quite a bit of mental disorders going on for many reasons, and I am in the medical profession, so I do not say that lightly. That's the genuine, honest truth. Um, so anyway, she was having a very difficult time accepting that their marriage was over and that he was in a relationship with me. And therefore, she was consistently doing everything she could to toxify our love story. And she succeeded. And one day, I guess she was angry, and I received an onslaught of texts that she sent me that had been sent to her by him. And those texts were sent during this beautiful utopian phase in which I was just telling you about, during a time where I thought we were both so madly in love that nothing in the universe could break us, that we were nothing that space or time or anything could transcend. And that's how I thought we were. So when I got these texts, you can imagine my heart literally fell out of my ass. I was completely devastated. I actually threw up. I was shaking. It was the most horrific memory that I have to date. Here are some of those. This isn't all of them, because this was a very, very difficult time in my life, so I did not include all of them. But the gist of it is, I miss you, I love you, and I will come back for you. Basically saying that I am disposable and I will be disposed of, and to please hang tight because I will be back for you, and that we are soulmates, and we'll be together again. So to me, this was like being shot in the head. It was absolutely devastating to me. For the first time in my life, I put all of my love, my trust, my hope, my dreams, my goals, and I allowed somebody to see those, and I fused with that person, who in turn turned around and was still fusing with somebody else. That is one of the greatest pains I've ever experienced. The abuse just kept getting worse and worse. And when I say abuse, at this point, I mean verbal, emotional, psychological, mental. And he literally was at the point where he was sparing no emotion. He was crossing every line and every invisible line that we all, as normal human beings, have, and we know not to cross. Even if you're so pissed off, you can't see straight. There's just a line that we all know exists. And for those of us who are astute to human emotion, we know we don't cross those. That's just, it's off limits. You don't go there. He was starting to go there. He was starting to cross those. And it was leaving me in the most horrific, unbearable, miserable, darkest place I've ever been in. It was very, very lonely and a very scary place to be. So I ran across this online, and I wanted to put this in here because it's funny. I would send him things such as this, and to a narcissist, it doesn't matter if it's in his face, black and white, jumping up and down, whatever. It doesn't matter how obvious it is. He will literally, any narcissist will literally deny and then blame shift onto you. So no matter how many times you show him something or tell him something or bring him proof or professional advice, it doesn't matter. To him, he was not an emotional abuser, nor was he a verbal abuser, and I was psychotic. I was just crazy. I'm not an abuser. You're fucking crazy. You're sick. You need help. So it was completely reversed back onto me. So here we go. This is where it gets a little nasty. These are some of the typical things he would call me. His favorites were psycho, cunt, white trash, loser, manipulator. I I was at a point where I was addressing many of his lies, and I tried to explain to him what a pathological lie or liar would, what that means. And as soon as I said those two words, he used them against me just about every other day for 4 years straight. It was almost as everything I said to him, he took those words and turned them around and gave them to me. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever experienced. It was so fucked up. It was insane. It was not normal at all. So these are horrible names. I can only laugh now because I've lived through it for so long and I have actually become numb. It's not funny when you're called, a cunt and a deadbeat liar, and I don't give a shit about you, and you're psycho and you're white trash. That those words literally can bring you to your knees. And I'm really lucky I ever had the strength to get back up. Truly. And they got worse, as you can see here. Now, these are a little bit harder for me to look at. I hope you have cancer. Did you hear that? It's quiet. Maybe you went to commit suicide. I hate you over and over again. I think you're a manipulative piece of shit. I fucking hate you. Just things that you truly wouldn't say to your worst enemy. Things you don't say to anybody. They're just that fucking toxic. Here are some good examples of some of the things that really started to tear my soul apart. I fucking hate you. Nothing you say or do will ever mean shit. You are the biggest pathological fucking liar. There we go again, using the whole pathological liar. He mirrored every single thing I ever said to him. Again, claiming that I'm a liar and that I do things behind his back. He says here, I read what I read, and he read what he read inside of my email, inside of my Facebook, inside of my texts. He would frequently hack into all of my accounts and completely violate my privacy. I wasn't doing anything wrong, and I guess the guilt that he was actually guilty of is what drove him to be so incredibly suspicious and jealous that he was constantly in my accounts. Here's a good example of the way that he felt. He had to put on some facade of grandeur as if he was the king of the world. Nobody does this to me. And he even admits here, I have your IMs from Facebook. I mean, just blatant disregard for my privacy, zero respect. He hated boundaries. There was nothing he couldn't do. He could do whatever the hell he wanted. And that was the way that it was. That was the rule. Anytime I spoke to anybody that was of the opposite sex, any friend of mine, it immediately was turned into something sadistic, some affair, just some crazy, crazy story. And I put this in here because I think out of all of the things that this kind of emotional and verbal and psychological abuse can cause, I am suffering and have suffered the most through depression. Something that I've never had in my life. I've never been a depressed person. I've never been on any kind of depression medication. Not that that's a bad thing, but I've never had to have that. I've always been a very strong person who was able to recognize my own warning signs and pull myself out, even if I was in the midst of falling. This was the first time in my life where I ever got scared. I got scared of where I was mentally. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to get in the shower. I didn't want to change my clothes. All I wanted to do was lay there, and that is a very, very scary, scary place to be. Here's more of some really nasty things, where again he's claiming I extort him when I asked for money before he would run off for days at a time. He would call that extortion and say that I manipulated him, and he would constantly claim I was mean, and I always thought that that was the most bizarre thing to me. I mean, as you can see reading some of this, it's absolutely disgusting. It's vile. but then he would turn around and say, I think you're mean. And it's like, what? At some point I started to react. For the first couple years out of the 4 years, I didn't fire back. But then I noticed through going through much of this stuff that I started firing back more and more and harder and harder. And when I would fire back harder, he would not only become upset that I fired back, that would be the new topic of the argument. You're mean to me. I can't believe you said these things to me. Well, I'm saying them in response to something you said to me. That didn't matter. All that mattered was now we were arguing because I was being mean over something I responded to that he had said to me that was grotesque as hell. It's maddening. Same thing with the cheating, whore ass, lying bitch. I had talked to a friend of mine, innocent, platonic, completely innocent, hello, how are you? Just a, normal Facebook kind of thing. He got into my Facebook, went psychotic. He would threaten to come with a U-Haul, and sometimes he would bring a U-Haul, and it would sit there for days and days and never be loaded. He'd never leave. He'd pay hundreds of dollars. He was just a sociopath in every sense of the word. Here's more examples of how he's going to fuck with me, calling me a hooker, telling me that I terrorize him. Of special note, he mentions here that I build hate sites and blog on people. Anytime I would go online to try and seek help or counseling or therapy or blog or journal or whatever it was, because it was so low, it was my last hope. He would turn that, he would find it, of course, in my email or whatever, hack into my accounts, and then he would use that against me and make fun of me, call us all psychopaths, and that we were all low class, meaning all of us that I spoke to on the blogs that are recovering or trying to recover from this type of sadistic abuse. There's literally been hundreds of thousands of texts, emails, videos, audio recordings that I have, and all of them are filled with the most vile, disgusting, sadistic hate. But of many of those, there are several that stick out in my mind, and this is one of those. I think that this one is so disgusting, so toxic, and so heartbreaking. It makes me really sad that somebody can be this mean and this hateful. Finally, the financial abuse started to kick in. Even though I am a nurse and I have the potential to make decent money, and I'm a good nurse, he convinced me that it was better that I didn't work. He could handle it while I was working on a medical device design, a project on the side. He encouraged me to not go back to work so that I could take care of that, and that he would take care of the bills and take care of us. And I trusted him to do that. And that was the biggest mistake of my entire life. When I gave up my financial independence and my financial freedom and I was locked to him, that is where things really, really went bad for me. And I put this one in here because people ask me all the time. I've lost several friends, actually, believe it or not, which is as shitty as that sounds. The reason why I did not leave, that I stayed in so long, was because once I became economically dependent upon him, it was almost impossible to leave. Now, he did not withhold money per se. I mean, he would give me $50 or, 100, $200, but he knew that I could not leave with, $150 in my pocket. He made it impossible for me to get out. Not impossible, but he made it very, very challenging. When you have children, why didn't I go to a women's shelter or a homeless shelter? Because I have children and I'm going to protect them. And to me, maybe not to everybody, to me, it was not worth putting my children through that experience. I would rather have allowed and sacrificed my mental health and my soul for the well-being of my children than to drag them through that. Not that they're bad places, they are a godsend. However, they were not right for me to go to. Now, if I was being punched or abused and hitting with closed fists and, having my eyes swollen shut and going to the ER, then absolutely. But to me, in my mind, it was just my mental state. And in my opinion and how I felt, I could get that back. That's truly how I felt. This is just mental. I can get this back. I can heal this. I was really losing all of my power. So when people would ask me that, or I would lose friends, the only thing that I could say to them is, until you've walked in my shoes, don't judge, because it's a shitty place to be and it sucks. If someone is calling you a cunt or a whore or a hooker or a prostitute, or telling you you're fat or you're ugly or you're worthless, that's not normal. And it took me, actually, I knew that that was not normal, but I took it with a grain of salt. I blew it off. I thought, okay, we have a hothead here. But let me tell you something. As strong as I am, and as much as I convinced myself that they're only words, they can tear you down to absolutely nothing. I never, ever in a million years would have thought that I would be torn down to the level that he was able to successfully tear me down to, through the use of manipulating my mind and my soul. It's quite fascinating how a narcissistic person can injure someone so toxically and have no care in the world. Most of these were threats, about what he would do, or what the consequences would be if I went and told somebody. He began to worry that his job was going to find out. He was trying then to start defaming me to others in advance, so that by the time I did reach out for help, they wouldn't believe me because he would get to them first. And that's sick. That takes it to a whole nother level. It's just, it's so bad. I can't even explain to you what it feels like to have your suffering unrecognized. It's very, very, very painful. I heard this a lot from him. I don't abuse you. I don't hit you. And he never did strike me with a closed fist. He never did slap me across the face. But he did abuse me, and he will never admit that, ever, 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 as long as he lives. So no, he didn't punch me in the face, but he threw things at me. He hit me in the arms, my eyes, my head, my legs. He'd push me over, walking, knocking, trying to get by me, and it would knock me over, knock me off balance, and I would fall. I would hit my head. He would throw cell phones at me. He broke my laptops, my computer, my keys, glasses, cups, anything that was nearby that he could reach. He would pick up and just launch it at me, and in an attempt to hit me in the head or hit me wherever he could. He would leave bruises on me from grabbing me, and he actually spit very close range in my face, probably 2 or 3 inches from my face, twice. And then a third time. And to be spit on, I can honestly say, is probably one of the most demeaning things that has ever happened to me. So yes, he was a physical abuser. And he left my life still singing that I was a psychopath and that I was a liar and that he was never abusive to me. That is maddening on every level. In addition to this, I guess kind of somewhat secondary physical abuse, the mental abuse it took a turn for the more sadistic in nature. He began to tell me that my children didn't love me, that I was a deadbeat mother. My father left before I was born, actually, and I was raised in a one-parent household, and that's something that's very sacred and very emotional for me. I mean, duh, it's not the coolest thing ever, and I've had to work my entire life to work through those things. So when I met him and I trusted him with those things, Those are the very things he ended up using against me as weapons. He told me that no wonder my father left me, he would have left me too, that my mom hated me, that I was good for nothing, my whole family was against me, I was fat, I was a loser, I had no skills, I was worthless. It got so bad that I couldn't take it anymore. Here's some of the pics. The one on my arm is where he grabbed me. The one over here on my shoulder is where he pushed me into a wall. This is a picture of my left leg. He picked something up, some large object, and just launched it at me, and it hit me twice in my leg. I have no idea what it was. So I ran and locked myself in the bathroom, and literally this picture was taken like 30 seconds after he hit me with it. It left huge welts on my leg, and then in the days following, it turned green and blue and purple, and it was absolutely horrific bruising on my leg. I still to this day have no idea what it was that he threw at me. A picture of a bruise left on my leg where he kicked me on the way out in an effort to push me back from the door. Just kicked me right in the leg, and it left a bruise, God, the size of probably a softball for 3 or 4 weeks. So finally, he drove me to my breaking point. This is really sad, and it hurts me to even go through this and relive this, but he had driven me so deeply into an emotional psychosis. I was so broken and low that after he sent this, I went in the closet and I grabbed his shotgun and I ran off into my car, put it in my little Volkswagen Bug, and I was going to commit suicide to stop the pain. I could not. It was that bad. So I ran to the river, which was about a mile from our house, and I pulled my car directly up to the mouth of the river. I had the shotgun wrapped in a towel. And just as soon as I was just about to do what I needed to do, there he was at my window, opening my door. And how, in God's name, he knew I was at that river, I will never know. But he proceeded to open the door, and we struggled over the shotgun for about 30 seconds. He finally wrestled it away from me and took it away. And that was it, just walked off. And I was left there in the dark in this post-traumatic, just completely fucked up situation. And I later realized that he wasn't there to save me. He was there to save himself, because I had left all of my journals and several notes detailing the horrific psychological and emotional pain I was in. And he was worried. He was scared that if he had driven me to take my life, that there may be some legal implications for him. And that just disgusts me even more. This is no way out, and I have gained a significant amount of strength since this time period. This was about 2 years into the relationship. I came to terms with those ideations and nipped them in the bud, because nobody is worth taking your own life for, especially a jerk-off narcissist like that. So thank God that I had some amount of sense in my mental arsenal to pick me up from this very dark time in my life. More of the same. He would say that he was worried his work was going to find out again that he was doing these things, so he would call them ahead and tell them I was crazy and psychotic and not to believe me. Same thing. Before he gave me money, he would make sure that I hadn't called his work or that nobody had found out. And once he knew he was in the clear, that's when I would get some money. He would tell me that I'm dangerous, and that used to blow my mind. When someone is so psychotic and then they mirror it onto you, it's maddening to a whole nother level. Which is what he did here. He tried to intimidate me by telling me he was going to move out. He wasn't paying my bills, and threatened to do that, like I said, hundreds of times. I thought this was a pretty poignant one. I think this is especially sadistic, even though it's not one of the nastier ones. To me, this one was just so disgusting. It paints such an evil, demonic picture of who this man really was inside. As I was saying before, this put me low as I could possibly get. I couldn't even get out of bed. He would leave for days at a time, not call, not leave any money. I couldn't feed my children. I couldn't get gas. He wouldn't call. He wouldn't text me. He would just disappear and then show back up 3 or 4 days later, 3 or 4 weeks later, and just pretend like he was sorry, and the process whole cycle would start all over again. Shame on me. I think this is just some of the earlier ones, the more mild ones, sadly to say. Yeah, these are from the beginning. Um, you're blocked. You're kicked out of this house. You're a piece of shit. You're heartless. You're cruel. Just the same things over and over and over. I thought that this was pretty peculiar. Ironic, more appropriate word, I guess. Narcissists remain level-headed until you speak logic, reason, and truth. That's when they loudly claim that you're unbalanced. And I ran across that, and I thought to myself, wow, he spends so much of his time telling me how unbalanced I am. So I went through, I think I just went through like a month of emails, and I was able to find 5 or 6 in that month alone where he was claiming, shocker, that I was unbalanced. More of the same, get out, telling me what a horrible, horrible person I am, trying to block me out of the accounts, call for emergency help, trying to put me into a crisis, a panic, which it always did because I have children. This is another one of those very poignant, very difficult ones for me to read. I never loved you, now go. When someone you love says that to you, that's hardcore. That's hard to swallow sometimes. And even though we see all these horrible things that he sent and said that are mind blowing, it's ones like this that really stabbed at my heart. And he tells me again and again how he doesn't love me and I'm not worthy of love. And that shit's hard. It's not easy. And right now I'm upset, and I hate that he has the power to do that, but I'm afraid if I don't allow those feelings to come out, then they'll be trapped in me, and I don't want that either. So I'm doing what I can. I'm just now starting my journey to recovery. So I'm working through this, guys. Bear with me as I work through my shit. They're never ending. There's just more and more and more kicking me out. You ruined my life. You're psycho. I'm going to have you removed. I'm not paying your rent. Anybody that I spoke with online or in via any medium that was of the opposite sex, he gave these little nicknames to, and was so condescending. Even if they'd been my friends for years and years, it didn't matter. I was immediately having sex with him. I was immediately having some crazy affair. He had this horrific pattern of coming up with delusions that would really blow your mind. More of the same. I'm kicking you out. Get out. You're a liar. You ruin lives. Really just more tearing down of my soul. More of the same. You're of no value to me. It's sick. These really kind of speak for themselves. He paints some horrible picture like I pretend like I'm nice, but my soul is disgusting and cruel. Yet I'm not the cruel one. And that is, like I said earlier, absolutely maddening. Literally can drive you to question your own sanity. And he has more times than I can count. More of the same. You're psychotic, you're psycho, manipulative piece of shit. I mean, as you can see, it's the same things over and over and over. Somebody tells you, get the fuck out, I hate your fucking guts, you're cruel, you're mean, you're psychotic. I mean, at what point does a person break, you know? This one's a little bit scary. It warns of if I tell anybody, which is what brought about this discussion or this email. I was in desperate need to reach out for help, and online, of course, and he knew and he was willing to scramble the signals. He's very intelligent in the computer world, and he was willing to completely disable my ability to reach out. And that's really fucked up. This is what he sent after he got into my email and realized I reached out to one of my girlfriends and was, kind of talking to her and finding solace in seeking solace in something he had done at some point. You're trash. Goodbye, hooker. That's not love. I hope you have cancer. I will pay you to leave just like the rest. Disgusting, vile, narcissistic pig. More of the same. I'm leaving. Call your boyfriend. The same things over and over and over. Fucking lying ass, cheating fucking loser. I mean, just so much rage in him. It's scary. You lying fucking cunt. This is somebody that says they love me 4 days later or an hour later, or it's not normal. It's fucked up, and it's a sociopathic, narcissistic, horrible, horrible thing to do to another human being that loves you. As I was saying earlier, it was all forms of abuse: verbal, emotional, physical, psychological, financial. But I was smart, and I began to record them secretly, audio, video, take photographs, everything that I could do, because it was making me feel as if he had covered it up so well that people would only think I was crazy. And that in itself was maddening as well. Anytime I threatened to leave, he would threaten to leave before then. He would threaten again to withhold rent. Anything that he could do to either lock me in there or cause me to fear that he was leaving, he would do. That kind of brings me to the end of this slideshow. Definitely not the end of the story. And what you just saw is about 1/100th of what I have. I have about 27,000 emails, probably close to 300,000 texts, countless audio recordings, videos. I have so much. I lived this life all consumed for almost 4 years. I'm trying to heal. This is one of my very first steps, and going through some of this stuff is absolutely gut-wrenching, but it has to be done. And I want other people to hear my story. I didn't want to leave because I was in love. I couldn't leave. I don't like to say I couldn't leave. It was too challenging for me to imagine leaving financially. There were a million and one reasons that I had. But at the end of the day, when I couldn't get up and I didn't want to talk to anybody in my family and I cut ties with my friends, and I was so depressed I couldn't move. I knew that it was do or die. So I got my ass up, brushed myself off, and here I am. And I'm never looking back. So if this helps anybody, that's a wonderful thing. I found somebody online, a therapist, I believe, that posts videos that I really, really like. So I've been watching her stuff, and I will continue to document my journey, and I will continue to post videos. I'm going to break it down a lot more detailed as I have the mental stability to do that. So in the meantime, thanks for watching, you guys, and I appreciate all the support.